Thank you for joining me. My name is Diana of Webinars by Rockwell. This video is designed with the administrative professional in mind and the unique job duties and tasks we are expected to do every day. With over 40 years of experience as a secretary, administrative assistant, and executive assistant, I hope my experiences and skill sets can help you excel in your chosen or fallen into profession. I appreciate you choosing to spend the next few minutes with me as we discuss ethics for admins. Let's get started. In this video, we will be discussing four main objectives concerning ethics for the admin. What are business ethics? Why do I need them? How do I enforce them? And wrap it up. When we think of the skill sets needed to be a successful administrative assistant, rarely do we mention ethics. However, they should be in the forefront of any initial discussion. We are often asked to make photocopies of copyrighted materials, sign or notarize blank documents, witness wills, trusts, and other legal documents. Know where your ethical boundaries lie. What are business ethics? Think of ethics as your legal roadmap of your career. Quoting the article named Ethics, Chapter 1, every day you are faced with decisions that can result in your being perceived as an ethical or unethical individual. A consistent path of ethical decision making, however, will make you a more valuable employee who will be sought after for responsible work ethics. But just reading a book or taking a course on the subject of ethics will not necessarily change a dishonest person into an honest one. Certain decisions you make in life will not necessarily cast you in the role of a dishonest person, but rather a person of questionable behavior. Studying the subject of office ethics, however, may result in your pausing before making a potentially unethical decision, a pause just long enough to consider the consequences to yourself and others, steering you down an ethical path of decision making. I apologize for not being able to cite the reference. I downloaded the article and was not able to find it again, and it did not have any citation information on it. I am going to say that ethics are subjective and different for every person. They vary depending on your upbringing, religion, politics, and life experiences. It's not my place to tell you what's right and what's wrong. The law does that. I will summarize with a list of behaviors that are suspect, but it's based on the article and not me forcing my opinions on you. Why do I need them? So you don't do something stupid. As mentioned earlier, ethics are your legal roadmap for your career. It could mean the difference between being successful and being stagnant or possibly fired. I once heard about a legal case where a secretary was prosecuted for falsifying documents for her boss. She was a notary public and had notarized documents for him for years. He asked her to notarize a document for the sale of a car for his wife. She knew the wife well and thought she knew her boss well too. Unfortunately, the wife did not appear before her, and she notarized the document with what she thought was the wife's signature. She was unaware that the couple had split up, and he was literally selling the wife's car out from under her in revenge for the split. Both the boss and the secretary were indicted and prosecuted, him for theft and forgery, and her for falsifying a notarizing and the sale document. On the surface, the boss asking her to sign the document only slightly bent the rules, and she was happy to help him get something done that was a minor inconvenience. It cost her her reputation and several years of her life behind bars. It is literally not worth it. If the secretary had followed the notary laws and insisted on meeting the wife and asked her to sign the document in front of her, this would have been avoided because the boss would have retreated and tried another tactic for revenge that didn't drag her down with him. I'm the first person to admit to being a right fighter. I identify as judging on the Myers-Briggs personality test. I do try to squelch the urge to fight every injustice and have learned to let some roll off my back because not everything is my fight. It's back to that 1970s idiom, you can't fight City Hall. So pick your battles wisely. Know your corporate culture enough to understand that going to HR about how another employee is being treated will not get you anywhere. However, going to HR about your own experience with harassment or other injustice may. When you're interviewing, research the company and look for lawsuits and reviews by customers. Many publish their mission and vision statements online. Compare theirs with your own personal ethics and make sure it's a good fit. You will not be happy working for a company whose corporate culture is diametrically opposed to yours. Let me give you an example to explain what I mean. I worked at a Methodist church after moving from my hometown to remarry. When I was interviewing, my Baptist background came up as a discussion point. My parents were founding members of a Southern Baptist church in upstate New York when I was only 4 years old. My father had gone to 3 years of seminary, but didn't graduate. He had been divorced, so he was not allowed to hold certain positions in that church based on the Southern Baptist charter. However, he had the background to serve as the backup pastor when the actual pastor was sick or on vacation. Ironically, they often had the same subject matter chosen. When I grew up and married, I married a pastor's son. Different church, but still Baptist. I spent 25 years in that second church, so naturally the Methodist Church was concerned whether I could support their doctrine and not be conflicted, or even worse, contradict the pastor and leaders during conversation in the church building. I understood their concern and had the questions myself before I interviewed. Basically, there were few differences between the two religions, Baptist dunk for baptism and Methodist sprinkle. That was the biggest one. Most of their other doctrine is relatively the same. My response was that as the secretary of this religious institution, it is not my job to discuss doctrine with church members. I can be myself and not push my beliefs on anyone else. I operated that way on a daily basis anyway, so it was not a stretch for me at all. I was not the person who handed out Bibles or told people off for behavior that didn't go along with my beliefs. Besides, we're all after the same goal. And I think that sealed the deal because I was hired and stayed there for 4 years. I chose to leave after my husband had to retire for medical reasons, and I needed a full-time job with insurance. And that's when I was hired at the college. On the other side, let's say you take a job as a retail clerk. The corporate culture isn't the best reviewed in the industry. They don't treat customers well or go above and beyond to get the sale or assist the customer after the sale. Returns and refunds are met with resistance, and they only refund the current price when an item is on sale. Or they stand firm on no refunds without a receipt. Really, who keeps the receipt anymore? If you've been a provider of excellent customer service during your entire career, then you probably will not be happy in this position. So how do I enforce my ethics? It's hard to have these conversations. Enforcing your boundaries, ethics-wise, can be difficult. Some bosses ask you to lie for them or fudge their expense reports. Some ask you to tell callers on the phone that they're not there or tell them that something was done and mailed when it was not. You can maintain your professional ethics by working around your boss's request and respond within your own ethical compass. When I was asked to tell a caller that my boss was not in, I turned it around and just said that they're not available at this time. The caller doesn't need to know any more than that. I even had one boss walk out into the hallway so I could say that she wasn't in her office. I have not falsified expense reports or changed any legal documents after they were signed, and luckily no one has asked me to do so. I do know of a scenario that my husband's coworker pulled off when working for a nationally known television factory. About 10 people were sent to Japan for a month for training. They trained during the week and had weekends off to sightsee. One coworker was buying up souvenirs to take home to his wife and children, but instead of taking that expense personally, he found a way to pad his expense report by changing his meal receipts by adding a tip that matched the amount he just spent on his souvenir. The person submitting his report knew nothing about it. They were in the US. But the others who witnessed it let it slide. This was the same factory who would fire someone even if they were a top performer for being late to work 3 times. And they would also let their salaried workers work 16-hour days for weeks at a time and even work weekends in between with no days off or extra pay. That was my segue to a very important point, knowing when to leave. It's usually fairly easy to know when you have to leave. It's generally harder to find another job while working full-time. Interviewers tend to want you to interview during the day and give short notice when they schedule. Just be conscious of repeatedly asking for time off for appointments without prior planning. They may clue in rather easily if you're not careful. Some people call in sick for the day or go home early as sick to accommodate an interview that crops up. Inform your boss when you're hired about your ethics. Discuss facts, not feelings. Know your resources for help, whether your boss's boss or HR. Stand your ground when necessary. Business people speak out about their concern for office ethics and how it has a serious impact on the overall strength of their company. Ethical concerns include personal use of computer and telephone, disappearing office supplies, office romance during work time, inappropriate office behavior, and office gossip. The definition of office ethics covers a wide range of issues and concerns. Office, office ethics includes conflict of interest, honesty and fairness, communication, and organizational relationships. Communicating is critical, including bearing the blame, in becoming clear as to what is expected of you with regard to office ethics. Some corporations go to great lengths to develop ethical guidelines for their employees. So wrapping up, some years ago, I helped organize a day-long seminar by my fellow IAAP members. We were lucky to get her as a speaker. She was from Wisconsin, I believe, or Minnesota, somewhere in the middle Northwest. And we were in New York State. She was a PIP, which is past international president, and a big deal in the association. She had started her own temp agency and was writing books. And she had just published a book named You Want Me to Do What? Her focus was on workplace ethics. If you want to look up her book, the author's name is Nan DeMars. The sad thing was, with all the planning and setting up travel arrangements that I did for this seminar, my boss would not allow me to attend. I believe he felt nervous about what I might be taught in the seminar, and he felt he was above reproach as a businessman. Here's a list of widely recognized ethical behaviors, both positive and negative. Take a few seconds to review it, pause the video, and take a screenshot if you'd like. Most are assumed to be understood by everyone, but some people do not get the memo. In summary, ethics vary from person to person. By starting a position with your boss and coworkers, knowing your ethical stance, you will go much farther than someone who changes their mind depending on whom they're dealing with. Having a strict ethical boundary will keep you and your boss from legal issues because you stood your ground to protect the boss and yourself. Thank you for joining us to discuss ethics for the admin. Webinars by Rockwell offers videos of a wide variety of topics focused on the skill sets of the administrative professional. We release videos each month, so watch our social media announcements for their release. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Bye for now.